Turns out the carrier turns around and shit.
You're a mess.
I have mixed feelings about it.
whole of it. It was nice to be away all weekend and then just come home and have fireworks.
Yeah, there were people everywhere. We drove around afterwards, we went down Third, picked up Ashley and went south. There were people at Schlett's hours, there were people at Dollar General, and it was just like traffic jam city. Everywhere. We're down at Kemper Village. I didn't go right out there and sit there, but I got stuck in the mud. Because I think they were driving off onto the...
They were lighting their own fireworks at Kemper Village.
Yeah, they were. Well, and over behind, over there, somewhere off of Morgan or Spring area. Morgan, somebody was shooting.
I was up at
Hi, Henry.
Paula's shoes, where she doesn't live up there. That's off the Walnut.
You need that? Yeah, just a shot. I called you to the Animal Shelter Advisory Committee.
Okay.
And Marcy Caldwell called me this afternoon and did. Boonville City Council to order. At this time, I would ask that everyone please rise, and Councilman Whitney Venable will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a prayer.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Lord, thank you for all of our blessings. Please be in our hearts and our minds as we make decisions for our city. Amen. Amen.
Roll call. Teresa?
Venable,
Here.
Meadows,
Here.
Beach,
Here.
Hurt,
Here.
Carter,
Here.
Ehlers, here, Dorman,
Here.
Stock.
Here.
Thank you very much. We're all here this evening. Hearing of citizens' comments. At this time, we have several people in the audience that I think have some public comments they would like to make. We ask that you please go to the microphone, and you are on the internet. You're on the World Wide Web when you're up there talking. Just a little cautionary note. And you do have 5 minutes to speak, and I will be timing you, and you will be asked to stop at the end of 5 minutes. So at this time, whoever would like to go first. David Oswald. We ask that you please state your name and your address and what ward you live in for our, and a phone number, excuse me.
Okay. Hello, my name is David Oswald. I was born and raised in Boonville. We currently have 2 businesses in Boonville, Turner Hall LLC and Ozzy's Leathers. I think it's real important that our community looks at the impact of having a weapon manufacturer coming on the heels of what has happened in Orlando. My other comment, it has to be with, as a business owner, we've never received any funding from the city. I've worked very, very hard on our businesses to make it work. I'm not opposed to this company coming to town per se, but I am opposed to us giving them any financial incentive. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Anyone else?
something, so, sorry. Good evening, my name is Mary Burrell. I live at 605 High Street in Boonville, Ward 1. And I would like to take this time to make a request to the city and our leadership. We have the Katy Bridge Walkway and the local museum are attracting visitors. And there's a new park near Kemper. State Fair is expanding, shops are opening on Main Street. And tonight you will consider a substantial investment in a new business in Boonville. But during the discussions about economic development, I find that the focus is often on health and welfare, jobs, the future of the city, and other factors. And we consistently overlook an infrastructure investment that is important to our citizens as low real estate prices are to investors and businesses. Our current library is inadequate, outdated, and too poorly funded to support this growth. The library provides research assistance to a business, cultural and recreational outlets to employees and families, and free access to equipment, information, and technology in a region where the wireless infrastructure can be iffy at best and non-existent at worst. Tourists and Katy trail riders use the library as a resource during their travels and visits. State Fair students use it because the State Fair does not have its own library on site. Nordine workers use the job search services of the library, and Boonville's economy clearly benefits from what our library offers. Libraries can assist with training. They can provide workshops and new technology. They're educational partners with colleges who provide workers to local businesses, including the new one we may welcome to our community. Yet there's an ongoing debate between the city of Boonville and the county as to who is responsible for the library and support. County taxes don't provide all necessary funds, much as many people believe. Commissioners tell me to talk to the city, and the city tells me to complain to the county. Apparently, there are issues on both sides that occurred in the past, and probably very fair issues regarding funding and construction. And that's a shame, particularly in a small community in a rural county. Tonight, I ask that please, we set aside those issues and begin to move forward with our library. I respectfully request that given the continuing growth in Boonville and investment in the community, the City Council begin to discuss how to include and assist our library as a partner in this expansion. I'd be happy to coordinate a meeting or a discussion. I know you're very busy. I also suggest that as new businesses join the community, that we introduce them to the library and its support systems. I think many people here and everywhere else will be surprised at what the library contributes to our economy, but I don't think it should any longer be considered a silent partner in this economic growth. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary. Andy?
My name is Andy Melendez, and this is the first time I've ever been to a Boonville City Council meeting, so I'm kind of a rookie here. I live at 502 Poplar Street here in Boonville, and my phone number is 660-888-9990. This past weekend, I had the privilege of being in the Cleveland-Akron area of Ohio. I went there to attend with my wife 50th wedding anniversary celebration of a gal who sang solo at our wedding 6 years before she got married in 1966. So we really enjoyed ourselves up there, and I know that I missed some water falling from the sky here in Boonville, but I was checking you out on TV and stuff like that. And when strangers meet each other out there on the road, we always ask each other, "Where are you from?" And I say, "Boonville, Missouri." And they look at me kind of blankly and stare at me. And then I proudly tell them these following facts. This is a great little town, population almost 9,000, halfway between St. Louis and Kansas City on I-70, 20 miles away from Columbia, Missouri, a great medical center, and the University of Missouri is situated there, and we're very proud of our tigers there. The Katy Trail State Park runs through it, a fantastic tourist town we are, large number of churches, and I go on and on if I can remember some other things I want to say. But the last thing I want to say is that we have an assault rifle manufacturing company in our city. which is the weapon of choice for most mass shooters. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy.
My name is Jane Lego. I live at 623 High Street in Ward 1. My phone number is 660-882-3930. As many of you know, I'm president of the local Friends of the Library. Like many others here, I am unhappy with the city of Boonville giving public funds to a company whose business model depends on the fear engendered by elections and mass shootings. But I am grateful that this issue has come up because it has made me look much harder at what our city is prioritizing and at how little I know about how these city funds are actually being spent. To follow on the comments of Mary Burrell, I would like to begin with a quote from a study entitled Making Cities Stronger, Public Library Contributions to Local Economic Development. In smaller communities, libraries are a principal source of information to area micro, small, and mid-sized businesses. While major corporations will frequently have ready access to information from online sources, small business operators are learning to turn to the library. The potential for public libraries to strengthen economic growth and resilience in the micro and small business sectors is significant. Just as new research shows that students who do not have access to online research cannot compete with students who do, small businesses that do not have the ability to adapt and reposition their businesses with current and detailed online information are at a serious disadvantage in the competitive global new economy. I propose that the IDA and the City Council consider using some of their funding to provide our local library with the means of subscribing to additional online resources of use to the small businesses of our community. This would surely be a far better long-term use of the money. Alternatively, perhaps businesses that receive public funds to relocate to Boonville could be required to pay back to the community by making donations to the public library earmarked for expanding the online subscriptions available there, along with the technical infrastructure, which would include more outlets for more computers and higher bandwidth required to support such resources. Our local librarians work miracles with a pittance of resources. Are you aware, for example, that in addition to lending books, they lend tablets equipped with early learning apps, and they work with Head Start and other preschools to introduce children who don't have access to technology at home to the digital skills they will need in school? I've brought with me one of those tablets. This one is specifically loaded with apps to help kids with autism develop social skills, and anyone who wants to look at it, you're welcome to. This can be checked out at the library by anyone with a library card, and is just one of the many tablet sets that are available for parents to use with their kids. Contributions to help give more kids access to these mobile resources are desperately needed. These library programs are the type of efforts that build that nebulous thing we call quality of life. And in the long run, it is quality of life that encourages businesses to locate to our city and enables them to prosper. I hope that the IDA and the City Council will give serious considerations to ways they can work with the library to better our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane.
Joan Reed, 1000 Riveria Drive, 882-8877, Ward 2. It was only recently, after a friend cited the Sunshine Law, that I was able to learn about Project Soda, which I found alarming. I now understand Dr. Gann and the recently formed IDA committee are recommending the City Council offer CMMG, among other incentives, a forgivable economical development loan of $200,000. Per CMMG's website, this company manufactures assault weapons and firearms parts. They're currently based out of Fayette, plan to bring their 40 employees with them, and hope to increase their employment base by 10 more people within 5 years. From what I read, I understand this economic development loan, they wouldn't qualify unless they bring 50 new jobs. It's my opinion, a town known for tourism, housing an assault weapons company would be a bad reflection on our community. Not a perfect alignment with the values we hold, as Dr. Gann states. It certainly makes living in Boonville less desirable for me. National polls consistently show the vast majority of Americans are in favor of stronger gun control laws. When our laws eventually reflect the will of the people and stronger laws are enacted similar to all the other countries in the world, CMMG's future will no longer be bright. In the meantime, why would we want to harbor a company whose sales always spike after a mass shooting? Unfortunately, there is no way we can prevent an assault weapons manufacturer from coming to town. But you as city council members can vote against enticing them with $200,000 of a forgivable loan that is our tax money. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Joan.
My name is Judy Stock. I live at 1202 6th Street, Boonville. I'm in Ward 3. My phone number is 882-5402. I received an email about CMMG. I was quite perturbed. I'd been reading in the paper about a company looking to move into the unoccupied building. And I know a company name is not given out at the beginning of negotiations, but I really think the city of Boonville should have made known the company name before now, because I understand tomorrow's the deadline. That's really putting it late, people. And while I fully defend every citizen's right to voice an opinion, my opinion is diametrically opposed to many. Thankfully, disagreeing is something we can still do in this country. The author, I'm happy to say, has checked her facts and she sent out the email. And she said tonight that an AR-15 is an assault weapon. The email stated rifle. It is not. The difference is the AR-15 is in the same category as most ranch rifles, shotguns, handguns. You pull the trigger one time, you fire one round. The trigger has to be pulled each time. An assault rifle is a machine gun type. You pull the trigger and I take you all out. All right, it was stated gun sales go up after a mass shooting. Gee. You think it might be because people want to protect themselves? Thanks to the present administration in Washington, D.C., our borders and border security now resemble Swiss cheese. On top of that, tens of thousands of refugees are being invited in, even though our government is unable to obtain any background information on them. ISIS is not shy about saying they want to kill us. ISIS has also said it will use the refugee program to smuggle in their people. Why? So they can kill us, of course. That's their whole goal. I'm not shy in saying I don't want my Second Amendment right to protect myself infringed. We as citizens need that right, especially now. It is not at all unusual for a city to offer a forgivable economic development loan to a company moving into it. In this case, $200,000 is a relatively small loan. It's forgivable only if sales are high enough. It is stated CMMG will be bringing 40 employees with it when it moves here and intends to hire 10 more within the next 5 years. Of the first 40, at least 5 would probably move to Boonville within a reasonable time. A total of 40 new jobs now, with another 10 to be added, would make a huge economic impact on our city. 5 new families would make an even greater impact. This would make it worthwhile to offer the loan. We live in a community of hunters and sport shooters. CMMG has a good product, and with the current situation, it looks as if they would prosper here. Boonville has lost several industries and many jobs over the past few years. We need to invite CMMG into our city and offer them the $200,000 incentive loan. Let's help them. In the process, we'll be helping our city and ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Other comments? Last call. Seeing none, we will move along to approval of the minutes of the June 20th, 2016 council meeting. You had those in your packet, and you had time to read those, so are there any corrections, additions, suggestions? They will stand as presented then. Consent items, we have none this evening. Presentation of accounts and claims. Teresa, when you're ready.
Ordinance appropriating money. Be it ordained by the Council of the City of Boonville as follows. Section 1, for the purpose of paying salaries in various accounts against the City of Boonville, which have been allowed by the Council at the regular meeting thereof on July 5th, 2016, the sum of $220,832.54. General Fund, $61,981.23. Sanitation, $27,186.88. CIP tax, $2,892.97. Waterworks, $73,755.25. Capital projects, $0.00. Wastewater, $6,115.21. Tourism, $4,453.18. Gaming, $32,585.35. Parks and Water, $11,862.47. Section 2, the accountant is hereby authorized and instructed to draw checks on the respective city bank accounts in favor of the persons whose salaries and accounts have been allowed as above, amounting to $220,832.54, being the total amount of money above appropriated. Section 3, this ordinance shall take effect and be enforced from and after its passage. First reading on July 5th, 2016, read for the second time this 5th day of July, 2016, since a copy was made available prior to the meeting.
Second reading title only.
Ordinance appropriating money.
Mayor, I move that we approve this ordinance.
Thank you, Becky. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Morris. Questions or comments? Roll call.
Venable,
Yes.
Meadows,
Yes.
Beach,
Yes.
Hurt,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Ehlers,
Yes.
Dorman,
Yes.
Stock.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Moving along to unfinished business. Item A, first reading of bill number 2016-023, approving the purchase of Hale Ridge Golf Course.
Please note that Exhibit A was received on Friday, July 1st, and I've placed them in each city council person's seat. An ordinance of the City of Boonville, Missouri, approving the purchase of the Hale Ridge Golf Course.
Thank you very much. Earl is going to be speaking on that a little bit later under his report, so stay tuned. Item B, second reading of bill number 2016-021, approving local agency funding contracts for fiscal year 2016-17.
An ordinance of the City of Boonville, Missouri, approving local agency funding contracts for services providing an effective date therefore, and repealing all ordinances in conflict with this ordinance.
Morris?
Mayor, I make a motion this be approved.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mike. Questions or comments? You had a listing of all those agencies and the amount. Morris?
Mayor, I'd just like to make a comment and thank the committee that served. We had over $100,000 worth of requests this year and only had 61,000 to be allotted out. And they did a real serious and went through the applications and did a lot of thinking and talking about it. So the recommendations they got for the council is a well thought consideration.
And I know it's not easy when you're giving out less money than people are requesting, so you do have to make a lot of
And there was some good
decisions.
good requests,
Uh-huh.
but we just felt like that they could possibly wait till later. They was kind of making their request a little bit earlier and everything, and naturally you just had to say no to something.
Okay, very good. And just so everyone knows, the people on that committee, you were the council rep, and we had Mike Poindexter, Nancy Whalen, Susan Miller, and Albert Turner. So it's a nice cross-section of our community, and we thank them for the job that they did. Any comments other than that? Roll call.
Venable,
Yes.
Meadows.
Yes.
Beach.
Yes.
Hurt.
Yes.
Carter.
Yes.
Ayers.
Yes.
Dorman.
Yes.
Stock.
Yes.
Item C, second reading of Bill Number 2016-022, approving final plat subdividing tract of land fronting Rocheport Road owned by Industrial Development Authority.
An ordinance of the City of Boonville, Missouri approving the final plat subdividing a tract of land fronting Rocheport Road in the current northeast corner of the city owned by the Industrial Development Authority.
We need a motion?
Mayor, I move that we approve this.
Thank you very much, Susan. Ned?
Second.
Thank you very much. Comments? Roll call.
Venable,
Yes.
Meadows.
Yes.
Beach.
Yes.
Hurt.
Yes.
Carter.
Yes.
Ayers.
Yes.
Dorman.
Yes.
Stock.
Yes.
Okay. Review and act on IDA's request for appropriation. Final copy will be available at the meeting. And you should have found at your place a copy of the request signed by Wilbert Meyer and Ken Hurlinger of the IDA. So has everyone had a chance to read it? Ned?
I move that we approve the IDA's request.
Okay. Do I hear it?
Second.
Thank you, Whitney. Okay. Question or comments or discussion?
Mayor,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
have some comments.
Okay.
We've heard a lot of comments in support of and not in support of providing funding to the IDA, and I'd like to add a few more thoughts. Our town is forward-thinking, and we want Boonville to be the kind of place that attracts people to our community. We've heard a lot of good suggestions about supportive libraries. We have wonderful infrastructure. We have so many good things about our community. I have a concern that becoming the world headquarters for CMMG is that Boonville will then be viewed negatively by those who might otherwise consider moving to our town. I do not wish to see this happen. I'm going to provide a few brief statistics. Currently, the AR-15 is one of the most popular and most easily obtained guns in America. I do not believe the gun should be sold for recreational use. Sandy Hook, 2012, 26 dead, 20 of them children, 2 wounded. Aurora, Colorado, 2012, 12 dead, 70 wounded. Roseburg, Oregon, 2015, 10 dead, 9 wounded. San Bernardino, California, 2015, 14 dead, 22 wounded.
2016, Orlando, Florida, 49 dead, 53 wounded. That's a total of 111 people, including 20 children, killed since 2012. 156 individuals wounded. I've grown up around guns, have been experienced in shooting shotguns, hunting rifles, have done target shooting with handguns. So do not pigeonhole me as being anti-Second Amendment. I do not believe, however, that the AR-15 should be manufactured and sold to individuals for recreational purposes. And that is what CMMG is all about. On several occasions, I've written my representatives in Congress asking them to support common sense gun legislation to eliminate access to this particular type of weapon. They've done nothing, and the tragedies continue to occur. I have the uneasy thought that we will experience more tragedies in the future as long as these guns are manufactured and sold for recreational purposes. I do not want to see Boonville be on the map for hosting a company like that. For those reasons, I cannot in good conscience support the idea of providing IDA with city funds, which will in turn accommodate the arrival of CMMG in Boonville. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Any other comments?
Well, I do have a question.
Okay.
So, they're saying that that they can use that $500,000 in any way they see it.
If you saw in the notes that I believe Earl provided, in 2009, it was decided that the IDA would be given $1 million to use for economic development in any way they chose to be appropriate with the council's approval. They also were given pretty much the oversight of economic development. In other words, we weren't going to be sitting around the table making these decisions. It would be easier for them to vet, to look at the information and make those decisions and then come to us. So that money has been appropriated. It was never transferred from city coffers to the IDA coffers. So they have obviously they have someone who they are considering. So we thought now's the time to probably transfer some money. And we have had others, Jim's talked about some others that are kind of fishing around. And so we felt like this was the time to make the transfer of money.
Of this 500.
Yes, just going to transfer 500 at this point. And I think that's what they asked for, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
But the city council still approves before they spend it? Is that what?
It will go to the IDA, and Wilbert, do you want to, Wilbert Meyer is the chairman of the IDA, and I believe they'll be having a meeting about that. I don't want to put you on the spot, but we have people here that are very interested in this, so we want them to know what's going on.
My name is Wilbert Meyer, and I'm president of the Industrial Development Authority. We've had several companies that's looked at town, and we've vetted them. The process hasn't been very well laid out, as you well know. In the past, what we've done is we've, after vetting them, we've given a report to the council to get their feedback. Unfortunately, we've exercised that, I think, on 2 occasions. That'd be about right, in the past 2 years. And neither of those businesses have elected to locate here. We got very, very close the last time on the Nordine building. I think you all know of that. We lost out to Rolla. And it's a very competitive business that we're in. So we're asking for these funds, so we will have some funds to use to be able to use towards economic development and to use towards assisting companies to relocate here. we will not be using the funds for our general operational monies. We actually have a very small overhead since none of us are paid, and I think that Jim's salary comes from the council as a line item in the county. So that's the essence of it.
But the IDA has not made a decision
No.
as to whether or not that money would be given to that. They are still
No.
in the process.
This company will be considered, but only after we've vetted them and we know what benchmarks might be. And we all make that decision together as a board.
Okay, so that's the process.
That's the process. And when we have our meetings, there's certainly an opportunity for the public to make comment at them as well.
Right.
That'd be taken under consideration.
Okay, very good.
Any questions by?
Yeah, I'd like you to repeat about the last 6 sentences.
They couldn't hear you, Wilbert. Turn around and talk louder. No, talk into the microphone.
Talk into the microphone.
Okay.
Talk a little louder.
Okay. The funds will be used by the IDA for the purposes of recruiting businesses to relocate here in Boonville.
And what did you say about meetings?
We have open meetings, and there's certainly an opportunity for public to make comments to them. We generally have a meeting every month, and our regular meetings on the third Thursday of the month. Now, we do have special meetings on occasion, but certainly they're posted. And
Where?
at City Hall.
Right here.
Right here. The meetings are here, but the agenda's posted at City Hall, right?
Well, how do I find out about it when I'm not?
Well, I believe, how is that shared otherwise?
Also on the city website, currently,
Which is,
www.boonville.org.
Is there any place else? Okay. I take care of it? Okay. Anything
And
else?
Wilbert, I would like to
Yeah.
make one comment. Someone brought up about that somebody's deadline is tomorrow. Well, we have a lot of people that give us deadlines, and believe me, if you talk to anybody, we never meet our deadlines. We are incredibly slow about doing things. So don't think that this is going to all go down tomorrow, because it's not.
No.
That is certainly their deadline, that's not our deadline. We have processes that we have to go through, and they have to understand and be patient or do something else.
That is correct.
So don't think it's going to happen tomorrow.
And there's no meetings planned for tomorrow either.
And we are required to give 48 hours notices before a meeting, so, there's always plenty of time given, so. Okay, thank you very much,
Okay.
Wilbert. Now, Ned, did you have a comment you wanted? Your hand was up, I think, or not?
I think maybe Wilbert just
Okay.
covered it and you just covered it. This motion is not about this company. This motion is about giving the IDA this money and giving them the freedom to be able to negotiate, to have something sitting in front of them with which they can negotiate. So I think it's a separate issue. Now, we can continue to argue the issue if we want to. I'd be more than happy to do that, but I don't think that's what's in front of us.
It's not at this time.
Right.
So, okay, any other comments? Henry, did you?
Yes, I want to agree with Susan. Those assault rifles have no business in our communities. They're just to kill people. They're not to hunt with. Nobody I know hunts with assault rifles. Anybody can tell me anybody that hunts with an assault rifle in here? You hunt with an assault rifle? You're a poor shooter then.
No, honestly, I'm not.
I have an old .22 rifle that's probably had 1 million shells through it that I shoot rabbits with, and I have a shotgun that I haven't shot in 40 years probably. And if somebody came in my house, I'd want my shotgun. I wouldn't want it. I wouldn't want it,
Yeah.
So why do you need an assault rifle? And the other thing is, they're talking about bringing 10 jobs into this community. There's probably 4 or 5 already working there from here that I know of. And 10 jobs in assault rifles? I just can't believe that. I mean, I wouldn't vote, I can't vote for that. You know,
Okay, we
No,
can't
they
have
already-
any comments from the public. You had your time
no,
to
they
make
already
your-
have 50 employees.
Yeah.
There's not 50 new jobs, there's five new jobs and maybe 10 at the end of 5 years.
Okay.
That's, no.
Thank you, Henry. Any other comments from the council before we vote?
A point of
Ned?
order.
Mhm, yes.
We're voting on supporting the IDA. We're not voting
Right.
on the specific plant.
Right.
I want to make sure that we understand that as a council.
And all the specific plans come back to be voted on by the council, right?
I'm not sure what the process is
No,
going to be.
I think we've given the IDA the power to do that. All right, no, please, no comments from the public. They were given that power in 2009. So, anyway. So we are just voting on whether or not to transfer that money. So as Ned points out, that could impact if we have someone 2 weeks from today who wants to come and incentives are offered, then there, if this is voted down, there would be no money to offer.
Right.
So potential is losing out future developments also. So I would point that out.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
there could be money, it just has to go through the council. There's money there, but it would just have to go through the council.
Okay.
You just said that there would be no money there.
If this isn't passed.
Well, there wouldn't be money with the IDA, but they could come back to the council and get money.
Right, it just adds another layer of bureaucracy. Okay, any other comments on this before we vote on it? Yes, Vanessa?
I'm sorry, I just really want clarification. So if we vote yes to give them the $500,000, they are welcome to give the $200,000 too.
If they
Without-
feel it merits all of their criteria for incentives.
But if we vote not to give them the money, then they still have to, they can still give them the money,
No, they don't have that money.
but we just have to get it. It would have to pend us getting it out of the bank for them.
I suppose, Earl, you want
At some point, you have to give them the money, because I don't think they have $200,000 of their own.
Right, but in 2009, we gave them the right to spend up
Right.
to
$1 million.
Right,
We just didn't give them any money.
We never moved it to there
Right.
yet. Yeah.
so they can still decide that this is good or this is bad and get the money.
We've got to give them the money so they can authorize, so they can decide whether to use it. If they don't have the money, they can't decide to use it and then come back to the council and have us vote because they don't know what we're going to vote.
Why can't they come back to the council?
I thought that was the process that was intended.
No, I believe in 2009 it was set up. Earl, can you help me out here?
2009, is that when we set the menu aside?
Yes, I believe so.
I think it was before that, maybe.
Well, maybe not.
In 2009, when we set up the $1 million, it was simply, the council thought it was a priority to assist economic development. There wasn't any discussion on the means that money would be transferred to whoever the beneficiary would be. Since then, the issue has arisen is that in most instances, cities contribute to economic development through some form of tax abatement. Cities have all kinds of authority to do that and do that every day. There's none of that in this case.
They're not eligible.
No, that's not true, that they're not eligible. You could do any number of vehicles to TIF or any number of the vehicles to do that. You could do that. But they haven't suggested they wanted that, and we haven't suggested that we wanted to do that. It was simply this assistance, one-time only assistance up front. In our research on that, contrary to the tax abatement strategies, the city itself doesn't have the authority to do that. The IDA does. So if we're going to employ the means, whether we give this money to this company or to Google or anybody else you want to do, you have to give the money to IDA because you can't give it to them yourself, no matter who the business is. So that's why the revolving loan thing went through them, and yeah, actually the Hotel Frederick went through them, although there were some other means employed for that back in those days. That precedes me, but so that's the issue. If you want to use your $1 million set aside, which sets you apart from other communities, because most communities don't do that. They just do this tax abatements that go on for 20 years or something that's not being done here. If you want to do that, then at some point you have to give the IDA the money to do that because you can't do it yourself. That's my understanding.
Okay.
Did that answer your question, sort of, kind of, maybe?
No.
Okay. Any other questions before we vote? Roll call.
Venable,
Yes.
Meadows,
No.
Beach,
Yes.
Hurt,
No.
Carter,
Yes.
Ayers,
Yes.
Dorman,
No.
Stock,
Yes.
5 yes, 3 no.
Okay. The motion passes 5-3.
5 to 3.
Okay. Thank you very much. New business, we have none this evening. Reports of standing committees, Parks and Recreation Board, Whitney.
There was a lack of agenda, so the meeting was canceled.
Okay. Street and Alley, Susan?
The information's in the packet. The discussion centered around one-way traffic, creating a one-way street for Walnut between Main and 4th Street. The commission is still wanting to bounce some ideas around and give it more thought before they make any, do any sort of vote on it. And they are also looking into a handicap parking space on the corner of 4th and Morgan Streets.
Okay. Okay, any questions for Susan? Okay. IDA and MFA, Becky?
The minutes are in your packet. If anybody has any questions, they're there.
Yeah. Report of city officials, city administrator. Earl is going to, at your place this evening, you've been given a, entitled, it's about a 3-page report entitled City of Boonville Update on Recent Events, July 2016. And Teresa and Whitney are passing out copies of those to people in the audience. This is an update on a lot of our major projects, such as Hale Ridge, the soccer fields. There's a little bit about the animal shelter in there. And so Earl, once we get those passed out and people have those in hand, Earl is going to give us sort of a, he's not going to read it, but he's going to give us a kind of a quick overview of what is in that. So everybody knows what's going on.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. As Julie just stated, I'm going to try to review the journey or the saga that Hale Ridge has experienced over the last 3 years, perhaps. I'm going to kind of comment on what's transpired and how we got to the point we are today, which, as you saw earlier on the agenda, is purchasing the land out there. I do think there was a sincere effort made by all the parties to try to find a way to make the project that was first conceived work, but in the end it didn't quite work, and I'll go into that in some detail here in my presentation. Again, as Julie said, there's a written version of this, of what I'm going to talk about here, and it'll also be posted on our website. Back a number of years ago, when we annexed the property, after that, the vision always was that there was going to be a housing subdivision out on the golf course area of some quality, with the intent to sell into the Columbia market, try to achieve some new people in the community, some new residences be built, and to sell into those to try to get some people to move here from Columbia with hopefully higher than average incomes, given that they're probably already employed in Columbia. This ideal, or this goal, was pursued for a number of years, probably at least 2 years, in detail through various engineering studies, plats, layouts, drawings, different ways to go about it, different developers, any number of things that anybody could frankly think of. I mean, each month went along with a new idea that had to be chased down to explore. And the goal through all of these efforts was to try to find that combination of factors, or of the way to deal with the whole project, such that the necessary infrastructure and the housing construction in a sufficient quality to attract the people from Columbia, how those things could be put together financially to sell into that Columbia market at a price point that was probably slightly below the Columbia market. So that was the challenge, was try to how to make this stuff work economically. Over that time, we found that proved to be very difficult. Indeed, many of you may have heard at one point that the golf course was going to be reduced to 9 holes. Nobody was all that enthusiastic about that, but the reality was there needed to be more ground for more houses so that you amortize the costs across more houses. So that iteration went on for a number of months, and different drawings and layouts and so forth. The other factor that we encountered with this particular piece of property, in that the site, and those of you that are familiar with it know of the lake that's out there, is that the construction of the infrastructure to serve the property is relatively inefficient, in that you've got to construct quite a bit of infrastructure to get off 87 to get up on the other side of the lake, where there are some excellent sites for houses. But that first part of the infrastructure to get you up there doesn't yield but a few usable lots. So you have quite a bit of investment up front with little upfront return in terms of sales of lot. So you have this upfront cost without much return. So, and that cost wasn't insignificant. It was insignificant. It was in the 7 figures. And frankly, it also brings a risk that whoever fronts that money takes the chance that maybe the housing project and the whole goal doesn't ever come together, and it's sort of a stranded investment out there too. So that was the challenge to deal with. And of course, as it went along, the suggestion was that as in many things in the world today, is what the city ought to fill that gap. And we considered that for a while. Indeed, at one point, we were looking at locating the soccer field on this property, and the owner was willing to donate a piece of the land out there for the soccer fields that was not really conducive to housing. And we pursued this through a number of drawings and so forth, and found how they would fit out there. And that sort of joint effort probably provided us some logic on why we could put some money into the project, into the infrastructure, because after all, you need to develop the street and the water and the sewer to get to the soccer fields, as well as to the housing. So if there was some sort of a joint benefit, well, that was perhaps just an economy that was probably necessary to make the project work. But as that flowed along, a new idea emerged, and that was the location of the soccer fields at the school. Frankly, that was simply a better idea. much cheaper in the long run, more efficiencies, a better way to deal with it, I think, for the overall community in terms of just a partnership with another political subdivision. But the impact, of course, on the housing is if we don't have the soccer out there, we don't have the nexus or the connection to the project that sort of justified us putting some money in it in the first place. But us leaving there didn't reduce the cost of the project either. Those same dollars needed to be spent for the infrastructure, for the water, the sewer, the streets to get up there. It's just now that any city involvement in those costs was sort of just out there by itself, sort of naked, if you will. And frankly, that's probably without precedent in the community in terms of housing subdivision. And that gives people pause. You know, I think the world's changed a lot in the last 7 or 8 years since the Great Recession in terms of housing developments and so forth, particularly in small rural communities. But so the world has changed, but I don't know if it's changed that much or not. So given the fact that there was a significant amount of money involved up front, again, it was 7 figures, well over $1 million. The fact that the expectation of the city was that we would be on the front end bearing all the risk, and the fact that we no longer had a relationship out there in terms of any straight city activity. You know, the issue of the equity in terms of past subdivisions and alike, us being involved in that private sector business, those three things came together. Again, the absolute amount of money, the fact that it's up front. There wasn't any guarantee that 100 houses was going to be built if we did put the money in there. The council fairly recently basically said they weren't willing to support that. And so the housing portion of the project died. Again, it wasn't for lack of effort, it just coalescence of factors out there, some having to do with the site itself and some having to do with just the way of the world today. However, as during this entire period of discussions with the owner, he had always indicated that the golf course was going to close if there wasn't some sort of change. Indeed, I think today was his deadline that the golf course was going to close, and he's picked that date out well back into 2015.
16.
Well, it's been at least 6 months when he gave us that date.
Oh,
I
I'm
think.
sorry.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
when he started saying, we're going to close this thing because I'm not
Yeah.
going to keep subsidizing. So anyway, given that reality, the city council as a whole, and each individual can speak for themselves in terms of what their motivation was in doing it, but they wanted to make an effort to see if golf could be kept in our community as an asset to our community. So we considered that, and as we had proceeded through this, particularly back when the golf course was going to be reduced to 9 holes, we kept in contact with the Isle of Capri in that they use this in their marketing packages and the like, and frankly have always had some interest in the golf course itself, and we bounced those ideas off of them. And I think they just sort of gritted their teeth when we said we were going to reduce it to 9 holes, but they went along with it. They didn't cause any problems. But so when we presented them the new situation and kicked around some ideas, they basically said they were interested in maintaining the golf course as it is, to the extent that they would be willing to participate financially. And so in the end, the Isle money is going to pay for half of the golf course, which is not insignificant and probably made the decision somewhat easier. But I think if you put the two things together, basically the council's hesitancy to see the loss of golf, the golf option in our community, and another black eye for our community that we've had several, the hesitancy to see that happen, because frankly, if it does happen, it's probably permanent. No one's going to build a golf course from scratch anymore. So combine that with the Isle's interest, and make no mistake, the Isle is a very important asset for our community. Probably, even though many people appreciate it, I think it's probably the extent of that benefit is probably unappreciated. With their direct interest in this, the council has decided to move forward in purchasing the land out there that houses the golf course. It was never the city's preference to get in the golf business. In fact, it's preference not to do it. I don't know anything about golf. I don't play golf. I'm not anxious to manage it. Gary isn't either. We'll probably entertain a management contract through an RFP proposal or RFP process. Indeed, back when the 9-hole option was being considered, we did, a committee did review a couple of I guess, small businesses that do in fact manage golf courses. They had a couple of 9-hole golf courses. That's why we had talked to them about the viability of that. And they were interested in doing it, and frankly, they didn't ask anything from the city. In fact, at some point, a couple of years down the road, they were willing to make a very modest payment to the city for the privilege of running the golf course. So, again, we weren't anxious to get into it, but the reality is, if we don't step up, there's probably not going to be one out there. So we'll proceed with that process as the fall evolves here to try to find a management, and hopefully someone's in place for the spring of 17 to do that. Now, I also have heard on the radio and otherwise about, the golf course was offered to the city for $1, or it's going to be donated to the city. That was true at one point, but not by itself. It's not fair to represent it that way. The fact that what was offered to the city was 9 holes, not 18, and the expectations was that there would be a quid pro quo in terms of us investing in the infrastructure to assist with the housing, the soccer if it was still there, or whatever. So the golf course was never free. There was always a significant price to it. In fact, this price is less than what that price would have fleshed out to be. So that's sort of a short history of what's happened out there and why we're at the state we are now. In terms of what that does with us overall, just a few comments. With this done, it gives some certainty to what's going on, and we can proceed with some planning type activities. The other thing we have going on is, of course, the soccer. It's doing engineering work is ongoing on it, survey, topographical, some land testing is going on. We purchased a couple other parcels to round out the school property. Hopefully there'll be some evident work next year. It takes a long time to do the design and get all the data together. I don't have a completion date on it, but that hopefully we start it at least next year. We have, of course, Science Hall ongoing. It's nearing its completion. We also have a couple of sewer projects of significance. One of those is about halfway completed. The important thing about these two is we have the funding in hand for them, and we can see the light at the end of the tunnel to them financially, so we can move on from them. As Mayor alluded to, other projects that are on sort of the immediate horizon, we have the admin building at Kemper. We have the asbestos removed from it, and it will be demolished later this summer. The animal shelter is now more ripe than it had been a year ago, shall we say. The New Hope group has done a nice job of getting that going. I think the mayor intends to engage them and another committee to sort of define the scope on what that exactly looks like as we go forward. The airport runway, people don't give too much thought of that if you don't fly, but there is significant pavement out there. And it's needing some maintenance. It's one of the few things left that you can get a significant grant for, but maintaining a mile of runway and taxiway isn't inexpensive, so even at a 10% match, it's a couple $100,000. The roof on A Barracks leaks. We're going to try to do that because the intent is probably to save that building. The likelihood that we'll proceed demolition with K Barracks. It also has asbestos which need to be cleaned out. The water plant distribution system requires continuing investment. There's no huge projects on the plate at the moment, but in an ever increasing regulatory world, you never know what will come down the pike. I've already referred to the sewer projects. Fire apparatus was also another item on our list, and we haven't forgot that. Indeed, I think we may have some announcement about that over the next couple of weeks. So that's sort of an overview on the other potential projects. I guess the final note back on the Hale Ridge thing is that the city is only purchasing the golf course part. We're not purchasing the part that goes on out to I-70. The owner still maintains that, intends to try to develop that commercially, and we wish him well with that. So I think everybody needs to recognize that the Isle deserves a hats off for this participation and all the rest that we garnered. That's all I have.
Any questions or comments? I know that the council has seen this prior, so anyway.
I have
Yes.
a comment. I just want to say that this was sort of, I thought, our solution to be able to have actually more money and be able to do some of the smaller changes, fund more of the smaller requests that we've been having, the shelter,
Right.
and also be able to grow in some different ways instead of, so.
And
I mean, I've just been hearing comments that are like, oh, we need a shelter, we need this, we need that.
Right.
But this is our solution to getting
Yeah, I
this.
think it gives you closure on this project, and we can begin to put it to bed financially otherwise, and your implication's right, is the overall cost of this is significantly less than had we went another direction of inheriting a 9-hole golf course that needed major upgrades because you have to change some holes around. That was $500,000 by itself, as well as subsidizing the infrastructure out there anyway. So it is a lesser amount, and combine that with the fact that the Science Hall and the sewer projects are maturing, I think your point is well taken.
Okay. Any other comments? Thank you, Vanessa. Mayor, I have no comments at this time. City Councilor?
I just wanted to clarify something earlier with regard to meeting notices. The Sunshine Law, state law requires that we provide at least 24 hours advance notice of any meeting that's open under the Sunshine Law. So anybody that is looking for that information at City Hall, it has to be 24 hours in advance that it's posted up on the bulletin board there. And of course, we'll make every effort to have information out there on the website as well.
Okay. Thank you, Carissa. City Clerk, Teresa?
I have nothing this evening.
Miscellaneous.
I've had a couple of businesses downtown stop and inquire about the possibility of additional bike racks being placed along Main Street. In particular, the new business that, I can't recall the name, across from Maggie's, that is kind of, has bicycles.
Katy Trailside Cafe.
Yeah, Katy Trail Cafe. So I didn't know what the possibility of that would be, of getting some additional bike racks. And they indicated that the bikers that they've talked to like it when the bike is out in front of the business that they are visiting because of the money they have tied up in their property.
Right. Okay.
So,
I think staff can look at that.
okay, appreciate it.
Yeah, we're also toying with the idea, some of the landscaping and improvements that were done 20 years ago, at least up downtown, are frankly gotten quite stale. And we were looking at trying to do something to freshen those up.
Good deal.
Okay. I think Morris had his hand up next.
I just want to thank the Eagles and the Chamber and stuff for the fireworks.
Yeah.
I think they did an outstanding job. I haven't heard nothing but positive comments about the fireworks.
Yeah.
And I know Matt on KWRT has made a comment that we're looking for input to how to improve it for next year. And we've already started working on next year, so if anybody got any suggestions, tell them, let us know.
Okay. And you're being very modest, but you're not thanking yourself. And you were the one that kind of picked the ball up a couple of years ago and said, let's get a 4th of July fireworks going. and it takes someone like you to get it going. So you and Sherry Broyles, I know, were quite instrumental in it, so.
Well, thank you, but
We thank you for
the
doing that.
citizens, and they're the ones that we want to try to please.
Yeah. There was a big crowd down there.
Yes.
I was really
There was
kind of surprised
They
how
were
many
everywhere.
people.
Everywhere.
I know.
Which, you know, what we're kind of hoping for is kind of make it more family
Uh-huh.
and have some activities that will last at least from noon on.
Yeah, band.
And maybe a band to entertain. I was lucky enough to be at Bunston that afternoon, and they have quite a few and gave us quite a few ideas what we could do here in Boonville.
Yeah, they've got it.
But we do need the citizens' input.
Right. That's who it's for. So, any other comments? Ned?
Yeah, I had a simple one.
Okay.
Constituent brought it to me, which is kind of nice. We don't get that very often. The street next to what used to be the bakery is called Chestnut.
Yes.
And at one time, we did a common sense thing, and we made it one way between 6th and Main
Yeah.
because of the big tractor trailers and the trucks and all of that that were going through there. And his question is there any way we can switch that back to a two-way? And the reason he suggested it is because of the amount of congestion we get at Main and Spring. Because that would make, like if they're going over there to the post office or whatever, it would make it easier.
Okay.
So, just something to put on your list, ML, because you don't have enough on your list, right? Right.
You already have a stop sign down there.
Yes, we do.
You already have a stop sign going that way.
Yeah. Would that do too? I forgot about that.
Only half the
Yeah,
street's
would take
one
very
way.
Only half?
Yeah, from the alley towards Main.
East is two-way, and the
Yeah.
alley west is
So I've been illegal but legal when
It's
I
a
leave
half-
Brown Hardware.
Halfway.
You have good company.
Halfway leaving.
Is that half right or half wrong?
Yeah. Okay, any other miscellaneous? Hearing none, I would call for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you all very much for coming this evening. It's nice to have a crowd.